Hello, I am going to continue on with my story because I really need this out there. Sorry, I just noticed my hair is like, ugh. Okay, so I'm going to continue on my story. Hello, America. This is Julie or Lee. I'm going to be known for Lee, hopefully, more than Julie. Okay, so what I was trying to explain about my situation, sorry, I just want to keep things neat and tidy. I did not have a problem with my doctor trusting me with the meds. I asked for, she said, do they work for you? We last left off with the medication. Does it work for you? And I said, yes. And she was like, okay, if it works for you, then yeah, I trust you, but you got to sign some papers and forms just so we can document this to make sure that, I gave you enough, warnings that this medication can do this, that, and the other thing. And I thought, not me, I'm too strong for that. Well, never underestimate yourself, both good and bad. Remember, both good and bad, because we all make mistakes. And unfortunately, I made a huge one by thinking I was beyond anybody else, like when it came to addiction, like it wouldn't happen to me. So when I took the medication, I took it for a couple of years. When I began to notice, within a couple of years after I started, I would take a little bit more. It took about 3 to 4 years before I noticed I was taking a little bit more. By 2006, 7, yeah. 2005, 6, and 7, yeah, those were years of the whole trying it more and more to get the same effect, that sort of deal. I got to relate to that, didn't want to, understood it, even if I didn't want to. And then by 2007, I said, okay, I'm going to see if I can't render some help with this, because I don't want to look like a badass mother that doesn't do the responsible part that I said I would do, which would go get help, which I was always pretty open to and honest about doing, and I always was and had been. And nevertheless, in 2007, it took me about a couple of weeks to get in because they were just opening up. I joined a methadone clinic, and within less than 48 hours, they dosed me 3 times, and within that 3 times, I come home. Started on a Monday, came home on a Wednesday afternoon with my 2 babies. My other 3 kids were off playing in the other rooms. My guy was ready to go to work, and I was upstairs in a split-level type apartment building that they had just built. And it had like a second and a third floor that we lived on, and I had decided to go and find myself with the babies and taking a nap. I didn't feel no more tired than normal, but I still felt a little funkyish, so I decided to go, not funkyish, but just tired-ish, and just wanted to lay down. And and I've taken naps before, so it wasn't like a shock. I wasn't throwing up or anything like that. And I decided to take a nap, and sure enough, I laid down, and all of a sudden, I guess my daughter and my guy had come in and asked me questions, and I wasn't responding, and they decided to take a closer look, and next thing I know, I guess my hands were cold, and my eyes were rolled up in the back of my head, and it was an awful experience. I didn't remember nothing. I don't remember even having anybody breathe into my mouth, doing CPR, trying to wake me up, that sort of deal. I couldn't remember crap, nothing. And luckily, my guy rescued me, and to him, and he decided, when I was in the hospital, he's like, I don't really trust this medicine. I said, I don't either, but it took me about 2 weeks to dose down. They wanted to keep me for 2 months, but then I think the program was new and they didn't want it to get around because they heard me talking to a few people that I didn't really trust the medicine, that I might have scared off potential customers or whatever they want to call them. Because my misery is their profit. That's why they allowed me to go in. My insurance happened to cover it. At first it wasn't going to, but it did. So I thought it was going to be a problem. And then I was like, oh, everything seems to have I call it the 11th hour, the last minute, 11th hour. But it got through, and fortunately that didn't last no more than barely a couple of days before I almost died, so I wanted off of that fast. And I went back onto my hydrocodone, and then I was like, the rest of that year, because I also got prescription because I had leg problems, so I was like, oh, this is just not working out. I don't like being looked at like this. Now I'm starting to think of meds like the way they said, more compulsively. Other things are not mattering as much. They still are more than I give myself credit for. Looking back in those days, I really didn't give myself as much credit, but I didn't have the same oomph as I did a couple of years earlier before. But I had just lost my mother. I could see why some things just had to change. It's just life in general. But I was so upset with myself, thinking, why am I feeling less about emotional about the things I used to really love, and that kind of scared me. And I kind of thought it was the addiction part of me, but then I thought it could have just been life in itself. Other people love things to a passion and they drop it and never go back to it, but doesn't always mean they have been on medication that lost their sparks for it. Just like different things in anybody's life, you once had a passion for it, and it doesn't even make you bat an eyelash now. And I was again given too much credit that the hydrocodone was blaming me for feeling this way, but I think it had something to do with it. So I'm being honest with myself because I was thinking of meds more than I was thinking of my hobbies and the interest of things that I once loved, including taking care of my health and stuff and organizing it. I was always still feeling always neat throughout the years, just noticed it less neat, less organized, obsessive. And one way that would have looked good, but it was so easy just to give hydrocodone the blame to say, well, that's why I'm not feeling as good because I'm worried if a doctor's still going to be around to make sure I get this medicine so it keeps my issues at bay, and also a leg problem. So I thought to myself, well, right leg actually, I didn't want to make myself um, dependent on anything, but the rest of that 2007, I felt like crap. Then I just happened to witness on Channel 13, Katie Couric was doing a thing about people in rehabilitations in the state of Florida. Then next thing you know, she got talking about this new medication called Suboxone. And I was like, oh my God, Suboxone. And I said to my guy, can I get that? And you trust me? He was like, yeah, if you think it works. And I found a doctor here, and I hooked up with him and got on it, and I was all excited that I was going to find myself on this medication, and I took it the first night. I was sick as a dog. I felt wicked nauseous, had a wicked bad migraine headache just way through me. I thought, oh, I don't want to take this meds, but I just lowered my dose. So at that time, they came in orange tablets, and they still probably do, but yeah, I didn't get the film at the time. And then this doctor was like, you can't, on this the rest of your life, but you might have to. But again, I paid cash for him out of my own pocket. My guy helped me. And next thing you know, that lasted a few months. And I thought, okay. And all of a sudden, my guy had a really bad, severe heart attack. So I was like, you're kidding me. And he couldn't get his job back because it was a strenuous job. And I had to look over that doctor. So it was like, oh, this is such a bummer because I worked so hard for the first few months on that program. From the beginning of January 2008, it was like an early Christmas gift to sign me up for the program, to get me in there. And I did so good. My urines always came out clean. I didn't have people lecture me. These are also the bonus parts of things that I don't say, because usually in order to stay into a program longer, I never got kicked out for dirty urines. So when I go to tell other videos and these programs didn't last long, I usually got kicked out left because the doctors moved away, the practice moved further than I could get to it. So fast forward it, I just had to stop the Suboxone. The rest of the 2008 year, I had to stick with my tramadol and what little I got for hydrocodone, and then the rest of the following going into 2009. Like I said, all of a sudden, I wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't the easiest. I noticed my funk was a little more picking up. I just didn't have the right mentality of wanting to do things. So I just wanted to go back into a little bit of a instead of rut, I wanted to get into a regiment, but the rut was still hanging around, like what I just wouldn't seem to go away, and I just was like, oh, I just want something different to change, and unfortunately, I had to leave where I lived after 6 years of being in this new apartment duplex that I really loved. But I had to move. I had all kinds of stresses in my life, like everybody does. Lost jobs, illnesses, um, different things that were coming up, deaths and people dying. I just, a lot of changes as you get older. You have, expanded families. You have more chances of something going and happening to one of them or whatever. So I had to grow up and learn how to handle that without always thinking, no, reach for a pill or whatever, whatnot. I mean, I never did that years ago, but I didn't also have this heavy artillery coming down at me all the time. Oh my God, this and that and the other thing. I mean, I always had problems, I thought. I always had tremendous anxiety. Little did I know, when I had all that anxiety, I didn't really have a real big issue. I just had one big issue that was causing anxiety, but this time it was all kinds of issues, and the anxiety was just growing, and so was the stomach issues. If I had not had my medication, chances are my stomach would be upset all the time, and I'd be running to the bathroom every 30 seconds. So, because I know what it's like to live like that. That's why I got on this medication to begin with. I hated that feeling, and it was a nice feeling to not have so much stomach problems. Like 80% of them went away. So anybody would like that, but I didn't want the consequences that I got from it, and this is where I stand now. These are the consequences. So when all those problems came back into my, well, came back, I mean, I had a lot of problems, and they were just tremendous, one after another after another. They just wouldn't let up, and I would find myself going, oh, I'll just take a pill just in case my stomach is going to get upset. That way, if I do have to go out somewhere, at least I know my stomach will behave. And in case the car breaks down, I'm not on the road looking around for a bathroom, that sort of deal. So, because I also had an older car, so it made sense to me at the time. Different situations would make sense to me to why to take it. You talk yourself into wanting to take it too. So, or needing it, and it all makes sense, and it still can be like that if you have an addiction. So when I found myself saying these little things to me, I again wanted help. And then in 2009 and 10, I found myself in a shelter, um, in a shelter, and I just was like, this has got to be better than this. And then I got luckily into an apartment and found out I was pregnant at the end of 2000, the summer 2010, and everyone goes, you've got to find a doctor. Um, I had another doctor who prescribed me fentanyl patches for a while, but then they decided to take me off of those when I became pregnant with my daughter. So next thing I know, by the time I had my daughter, got pregnant with my last baby, I was older, and this time I was finding myself back with really heavy anxiety attacks, tremendous ones like I had previously 23 years prior to that. I had them like I did when I first had them. They were just bad. It made me stay up for most of the nights. I'm surprised I don't have big, huge dark circles under my eyes. Really, that's mascara. But I'm surprised all the things that are going to get ruined off of my face. The teeth took a beating, but nevertheless, and you wouldn't even notice as much because when people look in my mouth, they didn't think they really saw bad things until they really got close, and then they're like, oh, I can see. But anywho, getting off the subject, I found myself wanting to, get healthy with this new baby pregnancy I was with. So I was like, okay. So luckily, I don't know how, the skin of my teeth, I got into a program. The program lasted until December of 2010, and then I linked up with somebody else by January 2011. Then I did have DHS come into my life. When my baby was born, she had to spend exactly a month in the hospital, supposedly, because she wasn't doing good coming off of the meds like I was, which I thought was ironic, because I thought I didn't take as much as I was supposed to take, because I cautiously told myself not to. But if I want people, I was on Zebutex when I was with her, which doesn't have the Narcan, which is the part that kicks out any other opiate if you try to abuse another opiate while you're on Zebutex. But somehow, When I didn't give birth, I had a C-section, my first and only one. I'm in my early 40s having a baby and had found myself her breech, so I had to have a C-section. And yeah, that was not fun. I also told him at the time, yeah, I couldn't believe that I felt the pain that I felt. I didn't think I could survive it. I couldn't even hold her afterwards or nothing. It was a horrendous pain that I had suffered after I had my daughter when I was on Suboxone. I didn't realize how bad pain can be until you giving birth with a baby with that. It brings back bad memories somewhat. But anyhow, she was a beautiful baby. She's half Latina, so she's gorgeous, and all my children are. So, anyways, beautiful babies, and I could not believe the pain that I was in back then. I don't know how I survived it. I remember laying on the table, but I didn't have DHS come into my um, room or anything like that. But by 2011, when I had my daughter, she was born in February 22nd of 2011, and I found myself thinking, okay, I need to get myself with some sort of baseline of mount myself, and it was hard to get into the hospital sometimes to visit her because I no longer had a car. I no longer had, I had just had surgery. I was not in the best of the health ways I could have been. I also had five other more kids to come home to. I did have a daughter who was old, 16, that could have watched the rest. Luckily, her dad, the father of the baby, worked at the hospital, so he could visit her. And I try to get there as much as possible, but I have to admit, some of my oomph were kind of still not kicking back into me like I would have thought, thinking, well, geez, I'm on this medicine, I'm not taking anything else. I've never been on illicit drugs before, never even tried them. Besides marijuana, everybody tries that, and that was not my style because that makes me paranoid. So I was like, what? And then I had DHS. I brought her home. DHS said they had to see her for a couple of weeks and then close the case. I already was having a little bit of an attitude with them because I have to admit I was starting to get little whispers in my ears about what DHS was starting to be known more for. And I was like, okay, but I didn't like the lady that had anything to do with the DHS case that I had opened in 2011 because they just do not come off nice. Some do try to if they have a certain agenda, but this one was a bitch to begin with. She just was not nice to begin with. And some reason I keep getting German ones with the German last name, which is ironic because on my mother's side I'm actually half German. On my father's side I'm Swedish and Irish. On my mom's side I'm English and German. So everyone giving me their little Hilda artillery. Child Protective Services loves to throw in these friggin' people with the last name that has a German sound to it. So yeah, that was kind of crazy. I'm just like, what am I sticking out for myself for the rest of my? My God, I'm getting way too old to be fighting like in a schoolyard with some little bully, you know, you know, tramp of a girl here trying to show off her, college degree in my face, and I'm like, shut up, bitch, yo, big deal, you can pronounce, a big $50 word, and here I am eating Cheerios off the floor, cut the fuck out, stop showing off. But, I'm trying to be more mellow and less dramatic than I usually can come off when I first meet people, because sometimes I get overly excited, but again, that reminder in my head, I treat people the way I want to be treated, but these people are ruthless and relentless, and they're not being fair to the people on the other side, which is me, you, anybody else. They think they have some sort of higher ground than the rest of us. So, I'm not as crazy about that. Sorry, I just turned my heat up a little bit because it's so blizzard outside, which I could be in, because this is where most people end up, on the streets, because of an addiction. And I had thought to get off the streets, because this is going to fast forward. When I found myself having DHS come to my house, Child Protective Service in 2011, I thought the case was closed. Then stupid me let this girl come into my house in May, It was Mother's Day. I was feeling lonely. I had the baby in my lap, and I happened to be outside. And one of these girls with her friends came over and went, "Oh, your baby's so adorable." And I brought her upstairs to change her. When I went to go have my baby being changed, she was on some heavy medication. So I decided that I wanted to have my baby, with me. And I was starting to, give her some medication. And I didn't know what this medication really consisted of. Like I did and I didn't. I knew it was strong stuff, but I still had that stupid naiveness in me that no one else would touch it because it wasn't their thing. And I left my daughter, and next thing I know, the medication's gone, and I was like, "You're kidding me." Well, it got exposed because of all the times I live in a place that has to have crappy cupboards, kitchen cupboards. I had one that had a missing door, but I still had my medicine all like nice and neat. And I had this big bottle, brown bottle, and it was sitting right there, and it had been exposed. And when these girls were sitting on the couch, they must have noticed that bottle and went over to it and looked at it. And I know it went down. I can almost guarantee this is how it went down, that they decided to take it. And when I came back out, I noticed it was gone. There was one behind it, but that one was almost empty. And then that was her next one to take when she needed it again when she ran out. And yeah, so sadly, these girls stole my daughter's medicine. And because of that, the just decided to step in and during the remaining of her time being on this med, that she was going to find herself not having to be in the care of me because they didn't trust me dosing her. They wanted somebody else. And at the time, my guy's parents took her in for a little while, for about 8 to 8.5 weeks, and dosed her off her medication so that she wouldn't be sick from having been being born to someone that had Suboxone in her system while I was pregnant with her. So yeah, I got beat up for that big time because I called the ambulance because I was afraid my daughter was going to have a seizure or something, because they scare you into these tactics to think these things are going to happen. And I really believed it, so I called the ambulance. The ambulance was like, "Well, what happened to the medicine?" And long story short, I got all kinds of blamed. I got all kinds of faulted on. And I was trying to clarify stuff, saying if you just saw how it went down, you would have seen the innocence of me just wanting some company over because it was Mother's Day, and I didn't have family members bothering me like they used to. And my guy was working, my kids were outside playing with their